Recording. So where we just left off, get out of here, is we created a user's login API that takes in a credentials object, which is an object that has an email and password. And we stringify that, and then we respond with a response.json. We get that user data back. That user data consists of an access token, or a token that has a key of ID, and like followed by a bunch of alphanumeric characters. Created at date, what the user ID is, and then another key user, which is a user object with the username and password and ID. And then we pass it off to this handle login function that we receive from props, which comes from the very top level of our app in handle login, that sets that user that we pass in to the app's top level state of user. And in order to pass properties to a component through routes, like right here using this route thing, we create another component or another function called render login component, which its sole responsibility is to render a component, which is the login page component, and pass in props. So we're passing in history, we're passing in that handle login function that sets the state of the app component. And then in our route, instead of using component followed by passing in the component name, we use render and pass in that function that's sole responsibility is to render the login page or whatever component we want. That's where we get this handle login page or handle login function. We pass in the user data into here, which sets the state of app.js to the user. And let's look at right here. So we already did that. Here's the app.state before we logged in. Here's the app.state after we logged in. Now after we log in, once we click submit, we want to do something. We want to route to a specific page. Maybe we want to route back to the home page. And that's what this history, this props.history, we're passing in as a property into our login page. That's what we want to handle. That's where we want to handle the rerouting. So in order to do that, let's just console log props.history and see what we have. So tom@email.com, 1, 2, 3. So here is history. We have push. We have this function called push, where we can push a path. And when we push that path, it essentially changes what route we want to go to. So at the very end, when we return props.history.push, and if we want to go to that route. So if I do tom@email.com, 1, 2, 3, it reroutes us back to the home page with our login user at the app.state. Now we can go to add article. We're going to change this where it's login because we're already logged in because we already have a user that's logged in, but everything's still working. Back, article, great. And so app state is still, hasn't changed because the app has yet to re-render, but if I were to ever just refresh it, we just lost our user. So we'll eventually get there. So I'm going to log in, reroutes us to the home page. So at this login submit, create a login user, grab the user email value, the password value from our form, passes that user object into the user login API, comes here, passes in the credentials, goes to this user login include user endpoint, include our headers, it's a post request, body.stringified is our user object, and then we just return a response.json. And then we pass that into our handle login, which sets the state to the user, and then we that history.push. So props.history.push. And we push it to this endpoint. Whew. All right. So here we stored this with validate credentials. Kind of already did this part. All right. Push.this.props.history.push. Since we're using a functional component, we just use props.history.push. Add console log this.date in your app.js, which we already did that. Great. Authenticated article submission, articles API. If you attempt to submit an article from your app in its current state, you'll notice that the API will turn a 401 unauthorized status code. Let's see that. I think we did that before. So if I refresh, add article, blah, 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 blah. There, we get a 401 unauthorized. So first, let's update add article. Let's update articles. Add article API. At the moment, this function accepts a single parameter, an article object, and an additional parameter for this function called token. All right, so we have to look at our add article API. Over here. Where is it? So add article needs to accept a token. And then what else is it? So when we add an article, it needs to accept that user's token. Then it's got to ensure that that token exists. Let's see if it says anything in here. When an API endpoint requires authorization authentication, it's customary to provide this data via a header called authorization. Add a new property in the header object in the add article function called authorization and set the value to the token argument. There's unit test. Okay, cool. So in the header, not that, take in authorization. And then we set it to the token. And then here is just error handling on my part. Cool. Is that it? All right, let's run that unit test. I think there's something wrong with it though. NPM, which one is it? Test. Run test. Is it articles API.test.js? I just want to see if it passes. Oh, failed. Oh, shoot, we got a bunch of failures. Add article, fetch articles by ID. And I think there's a bunch of errors just because I added additional error handling. Well, let's actually just test it on the app. Need to provide this data. Oh yeah, I guess we can. So hold on. Authenticate article. Let's just keep going. As we now need to user object or specify the token. So when we add, no longer need the login page, add articles. So now we need, when we add an article, in here in this add article object, we need to pass in a token. And that token, we need to pass in from the app.js. So once the user is logged in, this gets set to the user. We need to pass that user down to our add article component. Does anybody have any idea how we can do that? Anybody? We kind of already passed props using this render login page. Why don't we just do the same thing, except const render add article. I don't know if we need to pass in props. We can just return. And we just want to return this add article component. Add article. And then as a property, we can pass in the user. And then pass in this .state.user. So we're literally just passing the current state user into the add article component as a user property. Now down here, we'll just kind of want to replicate what we did with the login page. Turn this component to render, and then render a function called render add article. And then in my add article, I'm just going to console log props. Log props to see what we're actually passing into the add article. Token, token, all right. So I'm passing in token here. Let token equal null, just to pass that. There we go. So app state is null currently. And then our add article, we're passing in a user, which is null, which we're getting from the app component. Now if I log in, tom@email.com, 123, takes me back to the app, the home page with our app state is our current user. Now if I go to the add article page, our user should be passed in as a property to the add article component. So here's our user, user. Cool. So here's our property, and that's all being passed down via the app.js component to the add article page. So now I have this. Now I technically have access to, so instead of props, I'm going to pass in user. I'm going to do some destructuring. User. So now I'll have access to that token once I log in. tom@email.com, 123. Go to add article. Here's my user, the add article. So I can just use user.id and grab that token. So in here I can grab user.id and console log user token. Token. Refresh, not logged in anymore. tom@email.com, 123. Go to my add article page. So log in user, add article page. Now when I add an article, let's see what happens. New article, new byline, new abstract. Cool, I'm able to add articles now. And here's my user token. So I'm passing that user token into the add article API as another parameter. Comes to the add article API. Fetch articles, add article, comes into here, grabs that token. Does this try, fetch, article headers. Inside our headers, we have authorization, and we add that token. So now we know it's an authenticated user. Now I'm able to add I'll log in or add an article. So here's my article, success, your article was posted, check it out here. This is probably gonna reroute me to the home page right there. There's my new article, all fine and dandy. So, oh crap. So I'm still logged in, but it says, tells me to log in. Let's see what the next step in our challenge is. So it tells you essentially what we just did here: add article, render, add article page, object. So this is like the user token. At this point, you should probably be able to successfully submit an article. If you can, you may continue. Cool. So users who aren't logged in are now unable to post articles. We should only have the add article button appear in the app nav component when a user is logged in. In order to accomplish this, simply pass in appjet, the state user, into the app.nav component and key off that. So essentially, so let's go back to, so we're done, we're pretty much done with the APIs, we're done with the add article. So let's go to the app.nav, because in here, we want this to only show when a user is logged in. So I'm gonna refresh, the user is logged out, but this add article is still here, and I'm like, oh, I wanna add an article. I try to submit, I get an error, crap, token user ID. So I don't even wanna get to this point. So I probably should have some error handling just in case the ID is null, but we'll get to that after, if there's time. So we don't even want a user to be able to go to this add articles, click here. So we need the user to come into here in this app nav. And then dependent on whether the user, we want to render this link to the add articles page. So we've kind of already done this already once. And do I even need? So in here, so since I'm just literally rendering the app nav, I'm not actually using a route. So in order to pass in the user, I can literally, I don't even know if I need nav sections anymore, but we can just refactor that if there's time. I can really just pass in user equals this.state.user as property, then enter app.nav. I got in our app.nav, I'm going to props. I should be able to destructure user as well. And let's just console log user in our nav. Refresh. So here's our app state, null. Here's nav, the user is null. If I log in, tom@email.com, 1, 2, 3. So here's our app state, and here's our nav user. Cool, so now I have access to this user. Now I can do some conditioning. But did I even do the log out yet, or did I skip ahead? No, I think we're still good. So app.nav, I still have this user. So now, in here I can say like, user and. So if the user exists, I can render the add article page or add article link. If it doesn't, nothing will show up. So if I refresh, so look, it's gone already. Now if I log in, tom@email.com, 1, 2, 3, the add article page shows up. Now I'm able to add an article. Your article success, your article is posted. Go back, so add an article. But now if I wanted to go to like add article, cool. But if I actually try to, since I'm not logged in, it's gonna throw an error. So cool, we got some conditional logic that only allows a login user to submit a new article. Testing again, just make it feel cool. Check it out. Down here are all my stupid articles. Great. Any questions up until this point? So let's just quickly recap what we did with regards to allowing that add article link to show up. So in our app.js, when a user is logged in, handle login sets the user to state. At the app level, the very parent level, we pass that user down as a property into our app nav component. As user. So in our app nav comes into here. In our render, we destructure it by grabbing the user. And then down here, if the user exists, then render this link page. You can also do like the ternary way of doing it is that. It still accomplishes the same thing. So yeah. So that's the ternary way of doing it. And then there's also this way of doing it. If user exists and then render this. All right, so now let's go down here. You should still be able to verify the functionality that you built, load up the app, verify by default the add an article. Link doesn't appear, the login link does. Clicking the login link should bring you to the login page. Filling out the login form with valid credentials should be redirected back to the home page, and app.nav should update so that add an article and the logout links appear. So I don't have that logout link yet. So, app.nav. For the login and logout links, you can use React Router's link. All right, so in here, I can do if user is logged in, render logout. I'm gonna do everything in capitals, log in. Add new article. And then I gotta change this logout, so /logout. All right, something's happening right now. User, right here. So let's log in, tom@email.com, 1, 2, 3. So if the user is logged in, the add new article link should show up, and this should change to logout. Add new article, logout. All good. So let's look here. We haven't done anything with the logout page yet, so let's do that. So last few routes. At this point, all high-level objects have been reached. We're authenticating users, or updating the navigation to show portions of the site that only logged-in users can access, and we're providing the proper authentication in order to submit an article. So lastly, when the user is logged out, what do we want to happen? When I go to, when I click log out, I want it to go to log out. Cool, like nothing shows there. So I'm gonna have to create a route to log out instead of render login page, we can render logout page. Create a function. That says render logout page. And then instead of returning, we can use React Router's redirect. Switch. So this redirect can redirect a user to a specific endpoint. So we can use that. App router, I'm going to import redirect. So in our render logout page, instead of rendering, we can redirect to login. So exact path comes here, renders logout page, comes in here, executes this render logout page, which redirects the user to the login page. Let's see if this works. Login. Oh, sorry. Tom@email.com, 1, 2, 3. Cool. So when I go to logout, it should redirect me to the login page. Cool, redirecting me to the login page, except my user is still logged in. So in here, within this method, I can do this.setState user null. And I'm just going to console log user. I don't even need to. I'm already console logging that up here, app state. And yeah. So when let's refresh this. Login, Tom@email.com, 1, 2, 3. Login. Here's my initial user state. Now my initial user state is here. Let's add an article. A new article. Blah 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 blah. Able to submit. New article was posted. Check it out. Here's my new article. Cool. I'm all fine and dandy. Everything works. I can log out. Oh no, cannot update state during existing state transition within render. Render method should be a pure function of props and state. Huh, never seen that one before. But I mean, I guess I logged out. Everything kind of worked. Let's log in again and email.com, 1, 2, 3. Let's log out. Okay, I don't know why I got that here that first time. Opinion, world, login, Tom@email.com, 1, 2, 3. Cool. All right, yeah, I don't know why that initial one came. Articles mounted. I'm gonna try to recreate that error. Email.com. Yeah, can't do it. Cool. Does anybody have any questions of what I just did when I logged out? Tom@email.com, 1, 2, 3. Log out, click that log out button.
So you got that error before because you created an article, then viewed it, and just if you wanted to retrace all your steps.
Okay, yeah. Tom@email.com, 1, 2, 3. Add new article. Did I do it here?
You did check it out, and then you did log out. I thought, anyway.
Yeah, I thought, yeah.
That's what it was, I believe, too.
Okay.
Oh, that's weird. Oh, no, yeah, check it out. Just redirects to that main. You didn't look at the article itself, right? I think you just did check it out and then log out. And it looks like that deletes the token completely then
Yeah. So
when you change that state to null.
yeah. And so let's see. So what I did when I logged out, app.nav, click logout. That logout link redirects me to the logout page. This path renders this render logout function that comes up here, executes this .set state, so it updates the state, the user to null at the very top level of our app, and then it returns this redirect method that comes from React Router DOM. It just redirects me back to the login page.
All right, so that token's not saved anywhere. It's just completely gone once that state changes. That was just more what I was curious about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it should be. I mean, it could, it might. So in the Express server, I think it just randomly generates that token for this app's purposes. But, you know, say I log in. Oh, shoot, not Hulu. Tom@email.com, 123. Click it, and I click a hard refresh. Generally, you still want to stay logged in if you just like hard refresh, but right now it logs out. So can anybody, we're not going to go ahead into it, but can anybody think of how we can store that somewhere?
Store that in your browser as a cookie.
Yeah, we can store that token and you can look as a cookie. It can be at local storage. It can be anywhere. And then whenever you log in or whenever you go into this app.js, when this executes, you can check to see on like right when this, so I've got a class component. So I can do like component did mount and check local storage or a cookie or a session ID, whether that something exists. And then I could perform some logic to ensure that the site's functionality essentially ensures that my user is still logged in. What questions do you have? Let's just see if we even completed everything. Redirect component. If the user is not logged in and attempts to add article route, they should be redirected. Oh, here's like a little stretch goal. So if a user is not logged in and attempts to go to the add article route, they should be redirected to the login page. So think about how you can do that. Well, you want to try and do that right now? I haven't done that yet. Add article. Where the hell's article? So in here, you can be like, let's return if user, no user, return. Oh, I don't know if it's going to work. Is it going to work? Redirect to login. Add article. Yep, so that worked. So what I did for this add article, it's just a normal function. It comes down here. It's got a little if statement in my function that says if no user, just return this. Otherwise, just keep going. So if user does exist, it'll return this. Let's just make sure it works. Email.com. Cool, so it still works. There it goes. Cannot update during an existing state transition. That was interesting. Oh, well, if you figure out the solution. We won't go into that, but that would require some more debugging. But anyway, what questions do you have? Nothing?
Would you ever want to save your credentials as an environment variable instead of in a file?
No, because in only like server type thing. So the short answer is no.
Okay.
Yeah. Environmental variables are like for like keys and very specific things to like server side code. You'd want to save that stuff like in the browser as a cookie or something. All right. If no more questions, I'm going to stop.